Hello friends, in this video I will burst 10 myths that exist very commonly around the interview taking process. The reason it is important to burst these myths is because of these myths we end up compromising our interview. So once these myths are cleared and you are not bothered about them anymore, I can assure you will be able to ace any interview process. So let me go and call out those 10 myths and then burst them. Number 1 myth is be yourself. There is no way for you to prepare for an interview, so why bother? Because you don't know what you will be asked in an interview, so you rather just be yourself. Busted. You don't need to be yourself. You need to be someone who has the potential to get hired and ace that interview. That is what you need to be. You don't need to be yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't bring out your personality. You do bring out your personality, but you need to prepare in a way that you rock the interview. You're ready and you're prepared to handle any kind of question that comes your way. Now, the tip here is that you don't need to prepare for the question. So you don't need to guess what question you will be asked and then prepare for the question and answer. Rather, you go in preparing with the answers, and then when any potential question comes your way, you can use any of the answers that you've prepared in order to address those questions. What I mean here is you list down your top 5 to 8 examples, your best examples. And once those 5 to 8 examples are listed, and any question that comes your way, you can use one of those examples to answer that question. I explain this technique and this methodology more in detail in one of my videos which I have on my channel, for which I will leave the link here above. Now, one call out before we move further in the video, which is in case you like the video, please do press the like button. This keeps me motivated and tells me the kind of content you like. Secondly, press the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as I put a new content on this channel. Now, on this channel, I post content pertaining to career and financial success for mid and early career professionals. Now, let's keep rolling with the video. Now, the second myth is researching the company is most important part of the interview preparation. No, my friend, the most important part of interview preparation is knowing about yourself, what you've done in your past, what you have on your resume, the experiences you've had, because the interviewer is interested in knowing that whatever you tell him or her, you've experienced it in past and you have examples for it. So you need to prepare all of that as against trying to understand and read and memorize things about the company, which is going through their annual report, their marketing initiatives, their brands, and so on and so forth. You don't need to bother about all of that. This is something once you go in the company, you learn in 1 week. And the company knows that. They don't want you to know all of this before you come in the company, because this is something they can teach you very easily. What is hard for them to teach is your personality, is your experience that you've had before. That is why they're hiring you. So you need to brush up every experience or every achievement that you have had in your past, because you need to talk about those achievements as against talking about the company and their annual report and their marketing initiatives. Now, that doesn't mean that you have zero clue about the company. It is nice to know something about the company, but very superficial top line information is simply good enough. Don't waste more energy in trying to memorize about the company, about what they do and their business. That is for them to teach you. What you need to teach them is what you've learned in your past. So you need to show them that you know the stuff that they want you to be hired for. Number 3 is tell me about yourself question is irrelevant, because this is kind of a chit-chatty question, which is just tell me about yourself, and you go ahead, talk about yourself in terms of who you are, your resume, and that's it. No, this is one of the most important question. The reason it is one of the most important question is, one, it comes first, usually for most part of the interview, or for most interviews, it is the first question that is asked. So you rather start your interview at a very high note, and hence you need to be prepared what you say, how you say, and how you impress them. Because if you set the right tone in the first 5 minutes of the interview, the rest of the interview would be very easy. And secondly, the interviewer is not judging you when he asks this question. It's kind of a casual question just to warm up. And suddenly imagine he or she thinks it's just a warm-up question, while when you answer with such perfection and such greatness that he or she is impressed. Because they are not judging you, so their guards are down, their pen is on the side, they're not marking you. And suddenly you come up with an answer which is just amazing, and they end up falling in love with you. For this specific question, I made a separate video where I explain in detail how you should go about answering it, how you should go about winning this question. So do check out that video. Now, number 4 myth is that the interviewer, since they already have your resume, they've read your resume, they know about you already, and hence you really don't need to prepare for an elevator pitch about yourself. No. Chances are that they've either not read your resume at all or marginally skimmed through your resume. And the reason behind this is this interviewer must be taking around 10 interviews in 1 week or 2 weeks' time. So he or she has to go through so many interviews, they really don't have time to sit down, read through your resume, understand what is on your resume, and then form a personality of you in their mind before you even show up. They will quickly skim through the headings, they won't read any of the details, and would just end up calling you for the interview based on those headings, which is a very separate story. That is, you really need to have a strong resume, and resume which is very catchy, simple to read, easy to read, for them to get impressed by just looking at it in 30 seconds. So your resume should be able to impress the interviewer in 30 seconds. And for this, I have a separate video where I talk about how you should write a winning resume. You can check out that video here. But now getting back in the topic, given they only skim your resume, don't assume that they already know about you. So when you come, you have to introduce yourself, even if that means that you have to give a quick summary of your resume. And again, I've talked this in the video where I talk about how do you answer the first question, which is tell me about yourself. Similarly, they don't know about your personality. Even if you've written some catchy phrases in the resume, they won't read all of that. So you really need to talk about yourself, what you've achieved, what you've done, assuming that they've marginally skimmed through your resume and not gone in detail. So make sure you're ready with that elevator pitch about yourself and about your work and about your resume. The next myth is that you need to be 100% fit for the role. Only the most qualified person will get this job. Or in other words, it is sufficient to be technically fit to get the role. No, my friend, that is just part of it and small part of it. There is cultural fit, there is personality, there is communication. Because at the end of the day, they just not need an expert on the job. They need someone who's an expert to some extent, and does not need to be an expert, by the way, should have some knowledge or good understanding or good knowledge of the role, but should also be able to communicate, because there is no point in hiring an engineer who is very good at their job but cannot communicate with other departments, because you are not working alone. You're working with other departments. There would be a multifunctional team in which you would be working in. It could be HR in your team, it could be finance in your team, there could be other engineers in your team, there could be marketing folks, sales folks. So you need to be able to work with all of them, where you can communicate with them any problem, any situation. Similarly with me, the case was I was in finance, but I always worked in a multifunctional team where there were instances where I had to explain them a complex financial transaction that was hitting the profit and loss statement. And I had to make it very easy for the marketing guy or the sales guy to understand that how their bonus will not be achieved or will be achieved or overachieved because of certain P&L impact. And that had to be done in a very simple and smart way. And hence, more than me knowing finance, I had to be a good communicator. Similarly, they are hiring for someone who's a cultural fit, a brick who comes and fits with the rest of the organization and adds value, not someone who cannot fit in. Even if you're the best, the qualified, the expert in whatever area they are trying to hire, but if you cannot gel in with the rest of the team and in their culture, you will always be butting heads and will not add value and will not sync together with the team and with the company. And hence it is important for them to hire a personality which is a fitting personality, as against someone who's an expert but not a personality which is compatible with the rest of the organization. Next myth is that you need to know all the answers, or that there is only one answer to every question. No. One, you don't need to know all the answers. There will be instances where you may not know the entire story or the entire answer, and it is okay. However, for that, it is important that you explain or sell them your passion, your hunger for learning, and your ability to learn fast. Because it is okay for them to hire someone who doesn't know everything, but they would certainly make sure that they hire someone who, when comes on the job, is able to learn everything. For this, I've made a separate video where I explain that in case you don't know answer to a particular question or are unable to answer a particular question, how you should go about handling that particular question. So check out that video. And other than that, there is only one answer to every question. No, that is a myth as well. There could be multiple answers to a particular question, and the answer that you have in your mind could be different from the answer that the individual who is interviewing you has. However, you need to explain them the approach you take or the flow you take in order to reach the answer. So whatever the situation is, you take the situation and then you explain them step by step how you reach the answer that you reach. Now in the middle, your assumptions can be wrong, and it is fine to have wrong assumptions. But as long as your flow is right, your answer is right. You don't need to reach exactly the right answer. This is very much valid in questions which are guesstimate questions. And on this specifically, I've made a separate video where I explain how you should go about answering guesstimate questions, where you're required to estimate, let's say, market size of a particular brand launch or market size of a particular product, and so on and so forth. So check out that video. Now, next myth is that talking about the areas of your improvement or opportunity is a disadvantage. No, it is not. It rather shows self-awareness. Now, you still need to be careful how you answer this question and what you share and what you not share, for which I made a separate video where I explain how to go about answering specifically this question, what are your weaknesses? And here is that video. But make sure that you do have a weakness that you can share in the interview, because this way you will look self-aware, that you've studied yourself. There is no one in the world who's perfect. If someone says that they have no weakness, it means that they are not aware of the weakness, which is a danger sign. And when you say, yes, I have a weakness, and you can explain a good weakness, which is a good answer and an answer for which you also have a solve for, in that case, it means you're self-aware about your weakness and then you have a solve for that weakness. As I said, check out the video where I explain this answer much in detail as to how you should handle this question and answer this question. Now, next myth is that when the tables turn and the interviewer asks you whether you have any questions to ask them, you need to ask them questions to sound intelligent. No, don't do that. Because when people try to ask questions to sound intelligent, they are kind of trying to prove the point that they've done some homework about the company. And they would go asking questions like, can you tell me about your sustainability initiative? Or can you tell me about that particular marketing campaign that you're doing? Or can you tell me about that news that came in the newspaper or on the web regarding your particular company or a particular initiative that your company was doing? By asking these questions, you're trying to make a point that you've done your homework. Don't do that. Don't try to sound intelligent. Rather, try to sound someone who's the right candidate. And the right candidate for the interviewer is someone who is passionate, who is hungry, who is compatible, who is a fast learner. So make sure you ask questions which prove that you are a fast learner, you're compatible, and you have the right personality, you have the right skills for that matter. So maybe one question could be, can you tell me more about the culture? And once they start explaining about the culture, you nod and you kind of make a point as to how you experience similar culture, or that this is the kind of culture you would thrive in and you would want to work in. So they would enjoy hiring someone who can fit in their team, who is likable, who they can work with, who they can gel in with, versus someone who's just trying to prove a point that they've read the annual report or they've read the web and went on the web before the interview and searched the company, and now they're trying to ask a question in order to make a point that they've done their homework. Don't do that. For this very purpose, I've made two separate videos where I explain in detail what and how you should go about asking questions to the interviewer. So do check it out. Now, the next myth is around salary question, which is you should go and ask the salary question earlier in the process. Don't do that. Unless or until you are asked by the recruiter themselves and it is a discussion point, do talk about it. But if the recruiter didn't inquire, don't ask about it. You may have the urge of asking and knowing about it because you don't want to go through the entire process only to realize that the salary doesn't matches your expectation. For that, it would be nice to do some research and have some understanding on what kind of salary is paid in the industry or by this company. There are a lot of resources on the web that you can check. For this very purpose, I've made a separate video where I talk about how you should go about answering the question, that is, what are your salary expectations. We'll leave the link of that video here. But here the idea is, let the question sit and go through the process. It can very well be that you come out to be such a strong candidate that they are able to stretch their salary curve in a way where they can offer you more, even if the initial salary assumption that they had going in the process was lower than what you expected. So let yourself come out strong and a winner in the interview, and only then go about negotiating the salary. Last myth is don't follow up with the recruiter, which is once the interview is over, now you're curious and anxious to know what is the next process, but you don't want to bother the interviewer or the recruiter because you feel that they may get bothered or they may not like it. My friend, if you bother them, if you follow up, this just shows passion. Now, obviously, you should not get on their nerves. Like, you should not follow up the minute after the interview and then follow up 10 times in a day. However, you should still follow up with a reasonable deadline. Let's say you've given an interview, maybe wait for a week and then follow up. I rather hire someone who shows passion, who wants to join the company and is desperate and shows desperation. Because we also feel that if I follow up with the recruiter or the interviewer, it may sound that I'm desperate. Man, it is good. It is good to be desperate, because you as a recruiter would rather hire someone who's desperate, who's passionate, because you know that you will put your sweat and blood, versus someone who has an attitude and who's like, okay, fine, if they hire me, if they don't hire me, I don't care. I would not want to hire such a person. So I rather hire someone who's less intelligent but more passionate versus someone who's more intelligent but less passionate. So these were all the myths that I wanted to bust once and for all and put this video out on my channel. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this will now help you get rid of all the mumbo jumbo that you have in your head with regards to interview and recruitment process, and make your recruitment and interview process more seamless and make you well prepared. Now on this channel, I post content pertaining to career and financial success for early and mid-career professionals. Now, one video that I highly recommend you check out pertaining to career success, where I talk about how you can be the best at what you do. Other than that, I highly recommend another video where I talk about my financial freedom journey. Do check out that video as well. Thank you.